So we're going to have a little talk about soaps and detergents, which are a type of chemical called a surfactant. And when you see a name like surfactant, you should maybe be thinking that the front part of it here is a clue about the name. In fact, soaps and detergents and all surfactants work by interfering with the surface tension of something. That is, they make the barrier between things thinner so that other actions can take place. And soaps do this in a really particular way. So if we all know that if we took some water and we poured some oil, the oil would settle in a layer on the top, there would be no mixing. If we wanted to mix those together, there's a couple of ways that we could do it. The way we're talking about today is to do with surfactants, soaps and detergents, but there's other chemicals that also mix together oil and water. We can talk about them another time. The reason why oils and water don't mix together is because they've got different types of particles in them. If we looked at them super closely, we would see that the oils were their particles were arranged in these long chains, and all the particles in the oil are kind of the same, and they all do the same thing and they hang out the same way. On the other hand, we would see that in water, the particles are arranged in this kind of triangle shape, and the interesting thing about water is one end is a little bit positive compared to the other end. That is, it's not like this. It's not like the oil where everything's all the same and it's all nice and even all the way along. Water's a little bit uneven, okay? So what happens when you see oil and water is if you get a bit closer to it, what I've drawn here, and I'm sorry if you're finding the orange a bit hard to see, but what I've drawn here is I've drawn the oil as kind of a long, thin chain. And then underneath I've drawn these waters with their kind of triangle shape. And you see they can't click together? They can't actually connect to each other. So what happens when I mix soap in, when I put in some detergent like some dishwashing liquid or some shampoo or some washing powder or any of those things, is the soap has a different shape at each end. And you can imagine it being a little bit like that. We've got down here a water-loving end, an end that goes, oh, water, I want to stick close to the water. And down here we have an oil-loving end, an end that wants to stick close to the oil. And I hope you can see that if I put that in, all the little oil-loving ends are going to come up here and they're going to click into the oil. They're going to try and burrow in and dissolve into the oil, and all the water-loving ends will be sticking out into the water. What happens then, and this is where we get to the surface part of surfactant, what happens then is that it pulls away a bit of oil from the oil part and mixes it into the water part. That is, it reduces the surface tension between the two so that some of the oil can escape. And the net result is we get a piece of oil surrounded by water with the surfactant, the soap, making like a little gateway between the two. So where these two things never used to talk to each other, they wouldn't connect at all, this here forms like a little barrier or film or connector between the two. If you're into Lego, you would know that if we have like a long base piece and then we want to put some specialized pieces on the top, we need connector pieces to do that. You can think of surfactants as being like connector pieces for oil and water. When you put a surfactant, a soap or a detergent, into water and oil, it separates them out. It allows you to have chunks of oil floating in the water. The reason why this helps clean things is that once you've done that, any of the dirty, gross, germy things that are stuck to the oil, and they stick to the oils because oils are kind of sticky, they get washed away when you wash the water away. So if you've got like dirt on your hands and then you put soap on your hands, it doesn't kill the germs directly. What the soap does is it sticks to the oil on our skin and the oil in the dirt, and then it pulls it away into the water. That's one of the reasons why your dishwashing water goes kind of grey when you've been using it for a while and all the bubbles disappear. That greyness is these pieces of oil and dirt dissolved into the water. It's one of the reasons why when you're washing dishes, you always start with your least dirty things first, because over time, you've got more and more oil and dirt dissolved into the water gets grayer and murkier, and therefore less likely to clean, because some of the surfactant, some of the soap and detergent has been used up in that process. So I hope this has helped explain how the surfactant parts of soaps work. You need to think about it in terms of it helps break down the barrier between the oil and the water by letting the oil mix into the water, and therefore the dirt gets carried along with the oil and mixed in with the water too.